I moved 1,000 miles to escape my mom's control. She broke into my home, snapping photos of my life. Cops cuffed me, saying I ran a drug lab. Her call to them was recorded. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, in a house that felt more like a stage for my mother Evelyn's endless drama. I'm Jake, the youngest and only boy in a family of 3 kids. My sisters, Lisa and Emma, got out early, but I was stuck under Evelyn's thumb. She wasn't just controlling, she was obsessive, treating me like a toddler well into my teens. It was suffocating. From as far back as I can remember, Evelyn had this need to make everything about her. Birthdays, holidays, even my school events, she'd swoop in, demanding attention. She'd call it love, but it felt like a leash. At 16, she tried to pick out my clothes for prom, whining when I refused. "You're my baby, Jake," she'd say, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. It made my skin crawl. My dad, Michael, was a quiet man, worn down by years of her tantrums. He'd try to reason with her, but she'd scream about him being unsupportive. I'd hear them fighting at night, her voice sharp, accusing him of not appreciating her. She'd turn to me afterward, expecting me to take her side. I never did, and that made her furious. By the time I was 18, I realized Evelyn saw me as an extension of herself, not a person. She'd brag to neighbors about her Jake like I was a trophy. When I got a part-time job, she'd show up, embarrassing me by talking to my boss like I was a kid who needed supervision. I started dreaming of escape, saving every penny I earned. Her narcissism wasn't just annoying, it was destructive. She'd gaslight me, twisting my words until I doubted myself. Once, she cried for hours because I didn't thank her enough for a dinner she barely cooked. My sisters warned me she'd never change, but I held out hope. That hope died slowly, replaced by a burning need to break free. My 21st birthday was supposed to be my night. I'd planned a party at a bar in downtown Cleveland, just me and my closest friends, ready to celebrate finally being free to live my life. The music was loud, the drinks were flowing, and for once, I felt like I could breathe. Then Evelyn walked in. My stomach dropped. She was wearing a white wedding dress, her hair pinned up like a bride, makeup caked on thick. Every head in the bar turned. She strutted straight to our table, smiling like she was the guest of honor. My friends stared, confused, as she started talking over everyone, gushing about how her Jake was growing up. I tried to ignore her, but she wouldn't let up. When the cake came out, I leaned forward to blow out the candles. Before I could, she shoved in, puffed out the flames, and clapped for herself. The bar went quiet. My face burned with embarrassment. I got up to dance with my friend Sarah, hoping to shake off the tension. Midway through, Evelyn pushed Sarah aside, physically pushed her, and grabbed my arm, twirling like we were at her wedding. My friends gasped. I yanked myself free, my voice shaking. "This is my night, not yours." Her eyes narrowed, and then she screamed, loud. The band stopped. Everyone froze. She grabbed my ear like I was 5 and hissed, "You're embarrassing me on my special day." My special day? I couldn't believe it. The bar owner stepped in, his face red, and told her to leave. She kept yelling, claiming I was ungrateful, that I owed her. The whole place watched as she made a scene, her dress trailing behind her like some twisted pageant. Finally, the owner pushed her out the door. She screamed my name as she went, her voice echoing down the street. I stood there, humiliated, my friends whispering. Sarah put a hand on my shoulder, but I could barely look at her. That night, something snapped inside me. I'd spent years dealing with Evelyn's need to control every moment, but this was different. She'd crashed my milestone, turned it into her circus. I knew then I had to get away, far away. The next day, I started looking for places to live, anywhere but Cleveland. I couldn't keep living in her shadow, letting her ruin every good thing. That birthday wasn't just a party gone wrong. It was the moment I decided to cut her out of my life for good. After the birthday disaster, I knew I had to escape Evelyn's grip. Living in Cleveland felt like a prison, her presence looming over every step I took. She'd always been manipulative, but it got worse as I got older. At 17, she tried to spoon-feed me at a family dinner, cooing like I was a toddler. When I pushed her away, she sobbed, saying I was breaking her heart. My sisters, Lisa and Emma, just shook their heads. They'd seen it all before. Evelyn's tactics were relentless. She'd show up at my job at a local hardware store, telling my coworkers embarrassing stories about my childhood. Once, she brought a baby photo of me to show my boss, claiming I'd always be her little man. My coworkers laughed it off, but I was mortified. She'd gaslight me afterward, saying I was overreacting, that she was just proud. Proud? It felt like control. Holidays were her stage. At my Uncle Tom's birthday party, she followed me around, loudly telling my Aunt Emma about how I used to cling to her as a kid. She even said, with a creepy smile, that she wished I still needed her like that. My aunt's face twisted in disgust. I wanted to disappear. When I ignored her, Evelyn grabbed my arm, her nails digging in, and tried to drag me outside to talk. I pulled away, my voice low but firm. "Stop it, Evelyn. I'm not a kid." She froze, her eyes pleading, then furious. The worst came at a church event. I was 22, standing in line for communion bread. Evelyn pushed through the crowd, grabbed the bread, and tried to feed it to me like I was helpless. The congregation stared. My face burned. "Chew slowly, Jake," she whispered, as if it was normal. I walked out, leaving her standing there. That was it, the final straw. I started saving every dollar from my job. I found found a room to rent for $500 a month at a friend's parents' house on the outskirts of Cleveland. When I told Evelyn I was moving out, she lost it. She begged, cried, even blocked the door, saying I'd never survive without her. "You're my son, not my husband," I snapped, pushing past her. "I have my own life." She collapsed, sobbing, but I didn't look back. Moving out felt like freedom, but Evelyn didn't stop. She'd call my friends, asking where I was, or show up at the house, banging on the door. My cousin Lisa told me Evelyn was telling everyone I'd come crawling back. I didn't. Instead, I worked harder, saved more, and planned to leave Cleveland for good. Her manipulation turned darker. At a family barbecue, she cornered me, whispering that I was betraying her by abandoning the family. When I stood my ground, she screamed, calling herself the matriarch who deserved respect. My Uncle Tom stepped in, telling her to back off. For the first time, someone stood up for me. It felt like a crack in her control. I knew staying in Cleveland meant more of this. I'd heard about job opportunities in Portland, Oregon, over 1,000 miles away. It was my chance to start over. Packing my bags, I felt lighter than ever. Evelyn's voice still echoed in my head, but I was done letting her define me. I was ready to break free, no matter what it took. I met Sarah in Portland, Oregon, a few months after I left Cleveland behind. She was kind, grounded, everything Evelyn wasn't. We clicked instantly, spending evenings hiking in Forest Park or grabbing coffee in the city. For the first time, I felt like I could build something real, free from my mother's shadow. But I warned Sarah about Evelyn. "She's intense," I said, downplaying it. Sarah laughed, thinking I was exaggerating. She'd soon learn I wasn't. I'd been avoiding Evelyn's calls, but she tracked me down through a relative. When Sarah and I visited Cleveland for a family event, I braced myself. Evelyn was all smiles at first, hugging Sarah too tightly, her voice syrupy. "So nice to meet Jake's little friend," she said, her eyes cold. Sarah sensed it, but stayed polite. At dinner, Evelyn's mask slipped. She interrupted Sarah constantly, dismissing her job as a graphic designer. "Jake needs someone stable," she said, cutting a cake with a knife she gripped too hard. Sarah's smile faltered. Later, I overheard Evelyn on the phone in the kitchen, whispering to my Aunt Emma. "She's stealing my baby," she hissed, her voice venomous. My blood ran cold. Sarah heard it too, her face pale. I grabbed her hand, pulling her outside. "I'm so sorry," I whispered. She squeezed my hand, but I could see the unease in her eyes. The next day, Evelyn upped her game. She showed up at our hotel, claiming she wanted to bond with Sarah. Over coffee, she grilled Sarah about her family, her plans, even her finances, all while giving me these creepy, pleading looks. Sarah stayed calm, but I could tell she was shaken. That night, she told me, "Jake, I love you, but your mom, she's too much." My heart sank. I couldn't blame her. Evelyn's final stunt came at a family barbecue. She cornered Sarah, saying I'd never settle down because I was too attached to her. Sarah laughed it off, but when Evelyn grabbed my arm and tried to pull me away, Sarah had enough. "Let him go," she said, her voice firm. Evelyn's face twisted with rage. "You don't belong here," she spat. I stepped between them, my voice steady. "She's with me. You don't get to decide." Sarah and I broke up a month later. It was mutual, but it stung. She said she couldn't handle the idea of Evelyn as a mother-in-law, and I got it. I'd spent my life dodging Evelyn's control, but she'd still managed to sabotage something good. When I told Evelyn I was done with her games, she screamed, "No one will ever love you like I do." I hung up, my hands shaking. I knew then I had to cut her out completely. Portland was my fresh start, and I wasn't letting her ruin it. I'd been living in Portland, Oregon for 2 years, carving out a quiet life with my new girlfriend, Sarah, in a small bungalow we rented on the city's edge. I worked a steady job at a local warehouse, saving up for a future free from Evelyn's shadow. I thought I'd escaped her, but I was wrong. Evelyn wasn't done with me. It started with small things. I'd get random calls from unknown numbers, no one speaking when I answered. Sarah noticed packages left at our doorstep with no sender, cheap trinkets like baby toys that made my skin crawl. I didn't want to believe it was Evelyn, but deep down, I knew. My cousin Lisa confirmed it, saying Evelyn had been asking about my new life, digging for details. I blocked her number, but she was already too close. One night, I woke up to a faint noise outside. Peering through the window, I saw a shadow move near our mailbox. My heart raced, but when I checked, no one was there. Sarah urged me to call the police, but I had no proof. Then, 2 days before Christmas, my world turned upside down. Police kicked in our door at dawn, guns drawn, shouting about a drug lab. Sarah screamed as they cuffed us, dragging us outside. They tore our home apart, flipping furniture, dumping drawers, even ripping up the backyard. Our neighbors watched, whispering. I was furious, confused. They found nothing, no drugs, just some aspirin and my antidepressants. The officers looked frustrated, muttering about a bad tip. After hours of interrogation, they let us go, but our bungalow was a mess. The landlord was livid about the damage. I demanded answers. That's when they told me Evelyn had called them. She'd claimed I was running a meth operation out of my camper, giving them details so specific, our schedules, our address. She had to have been watching us. I was shaking with rage. Sarah's face was pale, her hands trembling as we cleaned up. I called my dad, Michael, who was stunned. He said Evelyn had told him she was taking a vacation in Oregon. He had no idea she'd been stalking us. Evidence piled up fast. Police found photos on her phone pictures of our house, our cars, even my underwear drawer. She'd used a spare key we kept in a fake rock to break in, snapping shots of everything. My stomach churned at the thought of her sneaking through our lives. Evelyn's plan was clear. She wanted to scare me, to ruin me, to force me back under her control. She'd watched too many crime shows, thinking she could frame me and walk away. But her lies unraveled. The call to the police was traced to her phone, recorded clear as day. She'd described my camper as a drug front, even mentioning times Sarah and I were at work. It was obsessive, chilling. I pressed charges for stalking and false reporting. Sarah and I spent days fixing the damage, both to our home and our trust. I couldn't sleep, knowing Evelyn had been so close, violating our space. My dad apologized, saying he should have seen her unraveling. I told him it wasn't his fault. Evelyn's obsession wasn't just with me, it was with owning me, and I was done letting her try. The police arrested Evelyn on Christmas Day, right in the middle of her own party in Cleveland. My dad, Michael, said she was smug until the cuffs came out. Then she crumbled, sobbing, claiming she'd done nothing wrong. I was in Portland, trying to piece my life back together with Sarah, but the thought of Evelyn facing consequences felt like a weight lifting. I didn't want to see her, but I had to testify. Sarah and I flew to Ohio for the trial. Walking into the courtroom, my heart pounded. Evelyn sat there, her eyes locked on me, switching between that creepy, pleading stare and pure rage. I could barely look at her. The evidence was damning photos from her phone, the recorded call to the police, even timestamps showing she'd flown to Portland to stalk us. She'd broken into our home, documented our lives, all to frame me for a crime I didn't commit. When Evelyn took the stand, she spun a wild story. She claimed she was protecting me, that I'd lost my way by moving away and choosing Sarah over her. "I'm his mother," she said, her voice trembling with fake tears. "No woman should come between us." The courtroom went silent. My stomach churned. Sarah squeezed my hand, her face pale but resolute. Evelyn kept staring at me, ignoring the judge's orders to stop. The judge, a stern woman with no patience for theatrics, called her out. Evelyn snapped, insisting she was sane, just a mother teaching her son a lesson. My dad stood up, his voice steady but angry. "If you cared about Jake, you wouldn't have tried to ruin his life," he said. "You treated him like a replacement husband, not a son." The gallery gasped. Evelyn lunged toward him, screaming, until guards pulled her back. Her outburst sealed her fate. The judge, originally considering leniency, saw her for what she was: unhinged. Evelyn's defense unraveled as she fired her lawyer, insisting she'd represent herself. She rambled about her rights as a mother, quoting Bible verses about obedience. It was a circus. I left before the sentencing, unable to stomach more. Sarah and I caught the first flight back to Portland, my hands shaking the whole way. My dad later told me what happened next. When the judge sentenced Evelyn to 2 years in prison, she threw a tantrum like a toddler, pounding her fists, crying, refusing to stand. Guards had to carry her out, her screams echoing down the hall. Dad said it was the most pathetic thing he'd ever seen. No one bailed her out. She had to use her own money to get out of jail before the trial, and even then, she believed she'd win. Back in Portland, I felt a strange mix of relief and guilt. Evelyn's actions weren't my fault, but years of her gaslighting left scars. Sarah and I talked late into the night, vowing to rebuild our life. The trial exposed Evelyn's true nature, and for the first time, I felt like I wasn't alone in seeing it. My dad, my sisters, even my aunt and uncle, they all saw her for who she was. Justice wasn't just her sentence, it was the end of her hold over me. With Evelyn behind bars, I felt like I could finally breathe. Sarah and I settled into our Portland bungalow, focusing on our life together. The chaos of the trial faded, but the scars lingered. I'd spent years under Evelyn's control, and even now, her voice sometimes crept into my head, whispering guilt. I pushed it away. She'd made her choices, and I was done paying for them. My dad, Michael, decided he'd had enough too. The day Evelyn was released from prison, he served her divorce papers. He didn't even wait for her to unpack. He'd already moved out, living in an Airstream trailer parked at a friend's place near the Oregon coast. He told me over the phone, his voice lighter than I'd ever heard, that he spent his evenings sipping tea, watching the waves crash. "It's freedom, Jake," he said. I could hear the smile in his words. The divorce wasn't easy. Evelyn fought it, dragging out court hearings, claiming she was the victim. But my sisters, Lisa and Emma, stepped up. They testified about her manipulation, her obsession with controlling me, even her affairs. My aunt Emma brought recordings of Evelyn's rants, her creepy comments about me. A few men came forward, admitting Evelyn had cheated on my dad for years. The judge shut her down, refusing to let her stall. She got the Cleveland house, but Dad didn't care. He wanted out. He walked away with no alimony, a clean break. Dad moved to Portland to be closer to me. He parked his Airstream at a campground near the city, and we'd meet for coffee, talking like we never had before. He cried once, apologizing for not protecting me sooner. "I should have seen how bad she was," he said, his voice breaking. I hugged him, telling him we were both free now. It meant everything. My sisters and I reconnected too. They admitted they'd known Evelyn's behavior was wrong but felt powerless. Lisa said she'd always envied my courage to stand up to her. Emma called me her hero, which felt strange but good. We started calling each other regularly, rebuilding what Evelyn had fractured fractured. Even my Uncle Tom and Aunt Emma reached out, apologizing for staying silent. For the first time, I felt like I had a real family. Evelyn was left alone in that Cleveland house. She tried calling me, leaving voicemails about therapy and changing. I didn't buy it. "You should have done that years ago," I told her in one short call. "Live with what you've done." She cried, but I hung up. I haven't spoken to her since. Sarah and I built a life in Portland, surrounded by friends who became our chosen family. We're not big on marriage or kids, but we're happy, and that's enough. Evelyn's actions cost her everything: her family, her reputation, her control. I don't hate her, but I don't miss her either. I've learned freedom isn't just leaving, it's letting go, and I'm finally there, living my life on my terms, with people who love me for me, not for what they want me to be.